Peppa Pig and the Mountain of Bubbles. Today, Daddy Pig is washing the car, and Peppa and George discover lots of bubbles.
Wow!
Peppa and George think bubbles are amazing. Wow, look at that! A giant mountain of bubbles. Oh dear, Mummy Pig looks so funny as a bubble snowman. Playing with bubbles is fun, but playing together is the best fun of all.
Peppa Pig and the Rainbow After the Rain. Another rainy day has arrived for Peppa's family. Peppa and George were in the living room watching the rain and waiting for it to stop.
Whoa!
Whoa! Finally, the rain stopped and the sun appeared in the sky.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
The two sisters happily ran out to the playground together. Outside, after the rain, 7 colored rainbows appeared in the sky. The two sisters ran out and were delighted to see a beautiful rainbow in the sky. George chased after the floating rainbow. Peppa laughed at him, and George, realizing he couldn't catch it, also laughed.
Peppa Pig and the Treasure Map. On a beautiful sunny day, Peppa and George were running around and playing together. Suddenly, a strange object flew past Peppa and George. The object turned around, and the two sisters ran after it to see what it was. The piece of paper that looked like a map fell to the ground. The two sisters ran over to see the map, looked at it, and then immediately set off to search for the treasure. Suddenly, arrows appeared on the ground, and the two sisters immediately followed them. Woo-hoo-hoo! The arrow led the two sisters closer to the treasure. Suddenly, the arrow disappeared. The two sisters searched around and found a chest. They ran to it, overjoyed and excited. Peppa Pig and her friend play volleyball. Today is a beautiful sunny day, and Susie the sheep came to invite Peppa and George to play volleyball. Susie came to the door and called Peppa. Peppa and George were in their room when they heard a knock on the door. Peppa ran out quickly, and George followed slowly behind. Peppa goes to say hello to her best friend, and the three sisters run off to play soccer. Peppa, George, and Susie ran to their positions. Susie, the sheep, tossed the ball to Peppa, but Peppa tossed it a little too hard, causing it to fly high and land near George. George then kicked it back to Susie. The three friends had fun together. Peppa Pig harvests watermelons. Today, Peppa, George, and Daddy Pig went to pick watermelons in the garden. The two sisters went ahead, followed by Daddy Pig and his wheelbarrow. The watermelons are ripe and waiting to be picked. The three of them went to the middle of the watermelon patch, and Daddy Pig showed Peppa and George how to choose and pick the watermelons. The two sisters nodded in understanding, and the two children went to look for fruits that resembled the ones Daddy Pig had pointed out. Peppa and George found the perfect watermelon and rolled it home together because it was so big. The watermelon rolled so fast that George had to chase after it until it split in two. And Peppa and Daddy Pig also brought the watermelon back. Mommy Pig came out and saw that the watermelon was broken in half, but the others were still there, and she was very happy. And the whole family was happy too. Peppa Pig and the flower pots. On a beautiful sunny day, Daddy Pig was out buying some lovely potted plants to bring home. Daddy Pig has brought the flower pots home. He turned around and smelled the blooming flowers. Just then, Peppa and George ran out to greet Dad the Pig and saw the pretty flower pots. The two sisters decided to help their father carry the potted plants into the yard. The two sisters ran back and forth between the car and the yard. The flower pots on the truck gradually moved to the small yard at Peppa's house. The flower pots have created a beautiful garden. Peppa Pig and the chicken. Peppa and George were sitting in the playroom when they heard a noise coming from outside the door. At that moment, Peppa got up and went outside to see what the sound was. The little girl quietly went downstairs, opened the door, and was surprised to see a lost chicken at her doorstep. Whoa! The little chicken gently bowed its head to greet Peppa. Peppa hugged the chicken, picked it up, and went upstairs to show it to George. The boy trotted into the room and went up to George. The little chicken came to eat the sisters' food, but the two sisters were very happy to sit and watch the little chicken eat. Peppa Pig and the big candy cane. Today, a strange tree appeared on Peppa's field. In the small room, Peppa and George had just woken up. The two sisters went outside to get some fresh air. When George opened the door and stepped outside, he stretched while Peppa spotted something interesting. That's a candy cane. Whoa! And then there was a long row of candies lying on the ground. George excitedly picked up a candy, and then he saw something even more surprising. A giant candy bar! Peppa and George excitedly ran to see the candy tree that had lots of candy and that the two sisters had lots of candy to eat. Peppa Pig and the Big Puddles. It was a very heavy rain tonight, creating puddles on the ground. When dawn broke, the two sisters ran out to the playground and saw many puddles of water. Wow! The two sisters ran to the biggest puddle and jumped in to play. The two sisters jumped up and down in the mud puddle, and the puddle grew bigger and bigger. Daddy Pig went out to check on the two friends, but he stepped into a puddle, slipped, flew up, and fell right down where the two sisters were. All three burst out laughing, then playfully splashed around in the puddle. Mommy Pig came out, saw it, and shook her head at Daddy Pig. Peppa Pig and the Rainbow Puddle. This evening, a rain shower passed by Peppa's house. When Peppa and her sister woke up, it was already morning. Peppa and George jumped up and ran out to the playground as soon as the rain stopped. It was great when the two sisters went outside and there were lots of mud puddles after the rain. Woo-hoo-hoo! The two sisters jumped and played happily in the mud puddle. Then, Peppa suddenly discovered a puddle of mud with a strange rainbow. The mud puddle was very colorful, so Peppa loved it and jumped up and down in it, while George ran around, completely bewildered by the mud. Peppa Pig and the musical notes. On a beautiful sunny day, Peppa and George were dancing to the music inside the house. The two sisters are dancing very happily. Next to it was a speaker playing lively music with unusually loud notes. George walked over and turned the volume up. The speaker turned up and the musical notes gradually became louder. George was very scared, but Peppa was delighted, and the two sisters came up with a great idea. The two sisters leaped to the musical notes, swaying and bobbing to the rhythm. The two sisters flew through the sky until the music stopped. Then they landed and were very happy. Peppa Pig and the crayons. As usual, Mommy Pig just got home from work. But today, Mommy Pig brought a gift for the two sisters. Peppa and George are playing with a piece of paper, bouncing around in the living room. The two sisters stopped when they saw their mother coming home and looked to see what gift she was bringing. When the two sisters saw the box of coloured pencils in their mother's hand, they were very excited. The two sisters each took a coloured pencil and began to draw on the paper they had. A little while later, the two sisters finished their drawing and showed it to their mother. The mother and her two children were happy together. Peppa Pig transforms into a police officer. Today is Daddy Pig's cleaning day. And in Peppa's dusty shed, there were golden dusts and cobwebs that had accumulated over time. Daddy Pig turned to grab a feather duster and began sweeping the shed. When he moved to a cardboard box on the floor, he found something unexpected. Those are
Wow.
police uniforms and hats. Daddy Pig shouted loudly from upstairs for Peppa and George to come down and see this exciting thing. The two sisters ran downstairs quickly and immediately changed into their police uniforms. Daddy Pig took a spare hat and followed Peppa and George to see how much the two kids liked the police outfit. Peppa Pig and the Stray Duck. In Peppa and George's little room, the two sisters are playing with their toys together. George is playing with his airplane and Peppa is bouncing around like a little duck. Peppa was having fun playing when she heard a noise outside the door, and George heard it too. Peppa got up and went outside to see what the sound was, and George followed her. Outside, there's a duck pacing back and forth in front of Peppa's house. The two sisters watched the duck pacing back and forth and thought it had gotten lost from its flock. Peppa and George looked around, but there were no ducks nearby. So the two sisters started looking for a home for the little duckling, and the duckling followed them. Peppa and George looked around, but there were no ducks nearby. So the two sisters started looking for a home for the little duckling, and the duckling followed them. Peppa Pig and her shadow. In their small room, Peppa and George were sitting reading books and eating candy. George was watching dinosaurs and eating chips, and after finishing the last piece, he realized he had run out of chips. When I looked over at Peppa, she was reading a book and had only one candy left in her hand. She looked around for more, but there was none left. Huh? Peppa and George went outside to play, and the two sisters happily went out together. Upon reaching the door, the two sisters felt relieved and started jumping around. Then they ran off to play. When the two sisters reached the middle of the yard, something strange happened. Peppa's shadow was following them and mimicking Peppa's movements. While Peppa and George were laughing happily, the shadow suddenly ran away and Peppa and George chased after it. The two sisters ran over and, seeing the smiling figure, they also laughed happily. Peppa Pig and George go swimming. Today is a beautiful sunny day, so Peppa and George decided to go swimming today. Peppa and George each have a different pair of goggles and snorkel. The two sisters happily skipped to the swimming pool. The water is rippling in the swimming pool. Peppa and George went to the pool. Both sisters ran toward the opposite bank. Peppa and George both jumped in together, splashing water everywhere. The two sisters swam back and forth together in the small pool. Peppa Pig and the toothbrush. After a long night, the sun rose high in the sky. Peppa and George woke up after a good night's sleep. The two sisters woke up and saw their mother pig carrying something into the room. The two sisters, curious, went closer to see what it was. Those are the two sisters' toothbrushes. Peppa took the pink one. George took the blue one. Peppa looked at the toothbrush, then put it to her mouth and brushed her teeth. Seeing this, George also followed his sister's example and brushed his teeth. The two sisters brushed their teeth thoroughly after waking up, which made their mother pig very happy. Peppa Pig and her umbrella in the rain. Today is a day of heavy rain, and in this lovely little house, Peppa and George are running and playing together. The two sisters ran around playing together, holding two umbrellas and frolicking inside the house. Whoa! The two sisters ran to the window and, seeing it was raining outside, came up with a great idea. The two sisters grabbed their umbrellas and ran outside to play in the rain. The rain outside had subsided, making it perfect for the two sisters to go out and play. George was delighted to jump up and down in the rain while Peppa ran around, feeling the raindrops fall on her little umbrella, then stopped to happily join George. Peppa and George went swimming. It was a hot day for the two sisters. They were both sweating profusely on the sofa. The two sisters had to wipe away the sweat from their foreheads. Shortly afterwards, the two sisters came up with a great idea. The two sisters ran off to do it, which was to go swimming together. Not far from Peppa's house, there was a spacious and airy swimming pool, which the two sisters greatly enjoyed. Peppa and George each ran to one side of the pool. Peppa jumped into the water on this side, and George on the other side did the same. The two sisters brought their favourite toys and played in the pool, escaping the summer heat. Peppa Pig in the strange footprints. Peppa and George are running and playing in the yard. The two sisters happily ran back and forth together. Suddenly, from a distance, George saw something very strange, so he ran to see what it was. Peppa also saw George suddenly run off, so she was curious and followed him to see what was going on. Peppa ran over and immediately saw strange, evenly spaced footprints on the ground.
Whoa!
And George saw the same things, so the two sisters started following in those footsteps. After walking for a while, the footprints led towards a house. So the two sisters continued to follow the clue into the house. Those footprints led to a person, and that person was Daddy Pig. All three burst out laughing as they solved the strange footprint puzzle. Peppa Pig and the ice cream. In the summer, the weather is always sunny and hot. Peppa's family was sitting watching TV at home, but Daddy Pig, Mummy Pig, Peppa and George were all sweating profusely. At the same time, Daddy Pig invited the whole family to eat ice cream together to cool off from the heat. Peppa and George excitedly agreed. The whole family went out to buy ice cream. As they reached the door, Peppa's family looked around to find the ice cream truck. After searching, they finally found the ice cream truck, which was driving down the road and heading towards Peppa's house. Then each person got their own ice cream, and Daddy Pig couldn't resist and ate his ice cream. Peppa Pig and the Big Ball. The scene takes place in the living room, with Peppa and George playing with the same ball. George passed the ball to Peppa, and Peppa passed it back to George. Unexpectedly, George used a little too much force, causing the ball to roll quickly out of bounds. Peppa and George go to find the ball. The two sisters ran out into the living room, then ran to the kitchen, peering around, looking for the ball. When they saw nothing, the two sisters ran out into the yard to see what was happening. The two sisters stopped to search and suddenly discovered something unexpected. Wow! Before long, the ball had grown larger than it was initially, much to the sisters' excitement. Peppa Pig and the balloons. On a beautiful day, Peppa and George were running and playing together from inside the house to the yard.
Peppa was playing when she suddenly saw something.
George stopped and looked in that direction as well.
The two sisters decided to go over there and see what it was. And beneath these big trees, there were some round, floating things, colorful balloons. The two sisters excitedly ran over to look at these colorful balls.
The two sisters were very happy and loved these balls. Peppa Pig and the Firefighters. Peppa and George are taking a walk down the street.
Oh!
Suddenly, the two sisters saw a fire truck speeding off on a mission. Peppa and George were thrilled to see a fire truck for the first time and immediately ran home to make something out of it. A moment later, the two sisters ran out wearing their firefighter uniforms. Peppa and George looked at the costumes, then quickly ran out into the yard to play. The two sisters each held a toy water gun in their hands. Peppa raised her water gun, aimed, and then shot water at George. George also splashed water back at Peppa, and the two sisters splashed water back and forth while laughing happily together. Peppa Pig and the Autumn Leaves. On a beautiful autumn day, Peppa and George, having just woken up from their nap, stepped outside.
Huh?
When the two sisters went outside, they saw many fallen leaves in front of and around their house. The colorful leaves are lying on the ground. The two sisters were very pleased to see that. The two sisters went to pick their favorite leaf from the ground. George stood there fanning himself with a red leaf.
Peppa picked up the leaf and threw it into the air. Seeing this, George also tossed his leaf into the air.
2 leaves floated up into the air, then drifted back and forth before gradually falling to the ground.
The 2 sisters had a very pleasant morning upon waking up.